Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Read M. My name is Emily, and today I'm actually going to be talking about something other than books. You heard me correctly. Today I'm actually going to be talking about movies. Now, I know that this is a bookish channel, but I just think that most people who really like to read generally just like to consume stories. And what better way than books to consume stories other than movies? I had been seeing a bunch of people posting their top movies of 2021, and I was just kind of inspired and realized that I had never really told you guys what my favorite movies are. I'm definitely going to put my Letterboxd down in the description below if you want to follow me there because I love updating that. But today I decided that you guys need to know what kind of movies I like. So I'm going to be telling you my top 20 movies of all time, my personal favorites. I'm not trying to say these are the best movies ever made. Clearly that is not the case for some of them, but they are my personal favorites. And there are actually going to be 21, even though it says 20 in the title, just because that's a better number. As the list goes along, I just want you guys to know that I have some range. Like, my taste really is fluctuating, so if in the beginning you're like, oh, I'm not really liking these genres, I don't think I'm gonna like the same movies as her, just wait. Just wait. There's ups, there's downs, there's literally like the most dark, gritty alpha male movies you'll ever see in your entire life, there's the most light girly movies you've ever seen in your entire life, there's the most nostalgic childish movies you've ever seen in your entire life. There's just really a range of everything. And so since I have 21, I'm not gonna be saying too much about them or the plots or anything. I'm just gonna say why I really like them and move on. And so without further ado, let's just get straight into my top 21 movies of all time. In number 21, we actually have a movie that I've seen within the past few years, and that is Promising Young Woman, directed by Emerald Fennell. This movie is a thriller. Most people would probably call it a good for her movie as of recently. And the reason that I really loved it so much is it's just the exact type of thriller that I want to be able to write. It is very tightly written, very exciting the whole way through, good twists. I personally really like the ending. I love the four-part structure that it puts the Roman numerals on the screen. I am obsessed with like the dark version of the songs that they include, like the Toxic cover and like all those kind of things. And overall, it's just such a fun movie, and I'm just jealous of Emerald Fennell for writing it. Next up, we have quite a different pick. So for number 20, we have Jumanji. Now, I'm of course talking about the original Jumanji with Robin Williams. This movie just absolutely enthralled me as a child. I remember reading the book when I was in, I think, 3rd grade, and then watching the movie in class, and then watching it a lot since then. This movie is very dark for a children's movie. It's about kids who can get trapped inside this mysterious board game, and one of them finally comes out of it after years of being trapped in the jungle, and then the game starts bringing things back into the real world and all that kind of stuff, and it's pretty scary, especially for a kid, but in general it's also kind of scary. And of course Robin Williams is brilliant. Next up, we're moving into a little bit of a horror category here. We have Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele. Now, this movie I think is probably the first real horror movie that I ever saw, and it's definitely not like too jump scary or anything. Obviously the concept is very scary once you get into what is actually happening there, but the actual movie itself is not too horrifying to watch in terms of like a adrenaline perspective. So I really enjoyed it as like my first horror movie. I love when horror movies and thrillers have some sort of message. So similar to Promising Young Woman, this one also has a real life message, and I like just being able to like unpack that and unwind it as the movie goes on. It has a great rewatchability. I am obsessed again with the ending in this movie. I think that it is the perfect way that it could have ended, and I know there's like not controversy, but there's like some debate over like the original ending versus the one that ended up in the movie, but I just think the way that they did it makes it almost seem like the original ending is happening, and then it makes you at least think about it, even though that would have been so unsatisfying to have the original ending. And for number 18, we have another horror movie, and that is Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster. Now, this is again one of the first horror movies I ever saw. When I first watched it, I believe I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars, but ever since I've rewatched it several times, and I just can't stop thinking about it, so I bumped my review up to a 5 stars, and it's so good. I think what was keeping me from giving it a 5 initially is that this is one horror movie that is lacking the message. It doesn't have any sort of societal commentary, it doesn't have anything like that, but it's just a great horror movie. It's really scary, it's really weird. It has a plot that you can continue to unravel as you watch it over and over again. I love the misdirect about the beginning of the movie. If you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. It's just fantastic. Number 17, here's when things are starting to take a pivot. We have Call Me By Your Name, directed by Luca Guadagnino. Now, this movie, I'm aware of the controversy surrounding it, but the reasons that I love it are really reasons unrelated to the controversy. I just love the feeling that this movie gives you. I think that it works emotions perfectly and flawlessly. The cinematography, the sound design in this movie, with the nature, with the birds, the way, the levels that it's at where you can hear the nature during the dialogue is just perfect. And the Italian energy, the Italian set that they have, the house, and just everything about it, I just think is done so perfectly. There's a lot of suspended silence in this movie, which I really think enhances it. It enhances the realism and all of those moments. And again, I guess I really like good endings, but this movie has the perfect ending and one of the most iconic ending movie sequences like of all time. I think every single person on this planet has seen the Elio crying at the fireplace 3-minute scene. That is the ending of this movie and 100% is what got Timothée Chalamet his Oscar nomination. And speaking of themes, I just really like the theme of the unsaid, of the what ifs, what could have been, and this movie just really encapsulates all of that, plus a huge hit of nostalgia and summer and the Italian countryside, and it all works perfectly to me. And not even to mention the incredible songs from Sufjan Stevens. Number 16, we're switching it up again, and we have Whiplash, directed by Damien Chazelle. Now, this movie, I have to say that this movie I think I like for reasons other than what most people like it for. A lot of people compare this to an I, Tonya, to a Black Swan. However, I see this movie as completely different from those. I will admit I've never seen I, Tonya, but I have seen Black Swan, and I do not think these movies are the same at all. I don't even think they're very similar. I think Whiplash is about hard work. I think it's about a question. I think it's about whether J.K. Simmons' character is right or Miles Teller's character is right, or if there's some sort of gray area. I do not think it's about an obsessed artist. I know that every single Instagram edit calls it an obsessed artist movie, but I do not think that he's obsessed with being a perfect drummer. I think he's obsessed with proving himself and that he's working hard to J.K. Simmons, who will not believe that he's working hard. And I just found this movie so relatable in so many ways. I've seen it a bunch of times as well, and the performances are absolutely astonishing. And I know J.K. Simmons got his Oscar for this, but I think that Miles Teller was also equally deserving, because his acting in this movie, he did his own drumming, it's just really phenomenal. And I remember that this movie, I think, is the movie, if not the second movie, that made me sweat the most. Like, I was sweating watching this movie. I remember I was watching it literally in my bed and I was just drenched. I was so drenched, and that's coming from a movie about a drummer. It's not even like a real thriller movie. It's literally about a drummer, and I was soaked in sweat. Like, I was so at the edge of my seat. Like, if you need something that will like get you ramped up, watch that movie. Now, bringing it over to another movie that's actually much calmer, we're gonna go to number 15, Stand By Me. Now, this movie is just an absolute delight. It is all about nostalgia. It is based on the Stephen King novella The Body, which I've also read and really enjoyed, and then I never saw the movie because I was just nervous because I knew that I would like it, and you know, when you know that you're gonna love something, you just want to watch it at that perfect time. So I actually watched this just the other day because I noticed it was on Netflix, and it was just the delight that I thought it would be. The performances are amazing, especially River Phoenix. Everything about it is just so like childhood nostalgic. You could never have a movie about 4 boys trying to find a body and just going on their little adventure and all that kind of stuff if it was about adults. Like, it just wouldn't have the same charm, it wouldn't go in the same directions, and everything about this movie is just amazing, and it's just such a super fun time. I could rewatch this a million times. This is definitely a movie that could be someone's comfort movie. I could totally see that. It'd be amazing like in the background while you're doing something else. It's just a super great ride. Now, sticking on the sort of nice nostalgic route, we have Spirited Away as my number 14 spot, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. And this movie I watched when I was little. For me, all the Miyazaki films, those were my childhood. Like, those were my Disney movies, those were my Harry Potter movies. Like, I didn't watch those movies, I watched Hayao Miyazaki movies. And I don't know why this is. Like, I saw a few Disney movies, but like the ones that I would literally watch like every single day, like on repeat, were the Hayao Miyazaki movies that I had on DVD, and I would just always play them over and over and over again. Now, there is one more, I will spoil that I guess, that is higher up on this list, but this movie is one of the best. Like, I know that objectively this movie is like better, as everyone says, than the other one on this list, but like the other one on this list, it just has a deeper connection. But anyway, Spirited Away is sort of a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It's sort of just a story of a girl who is trying to move to a new place, but she's nervous, and her parents are doing things she doesn't want them to do, and she's trying to protect them, and she kind of gets spirited away to the spirit world, and she has to just figure everything out. And it's really kind of scary as a child to watch, but it's also so exciting. And just Miyazaki's worlds are like boundlessly interesting. There are just so many creatures, so many questions. Every single time I watch these movies, I have more questions than answers, and that is in such a good way. Like, I was obsessed with trying to figure out these movies as a child, and that's why they had such high rewatchability for me. And the animation, we can't even begin to talk about that. Like, it's absolutely breathtaking, it's amazing, and I know that Hayao Miyazaki did just announce that he's coming out of retirement to make another movie, so like, I will be seeing that, I will have my butt in the seat at the movie theater and will be seeing that. Okay, number 13, switching out genre yet again, we have Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan. Now, this movie is my second favorite Nolan film, so there is one more on this list as well, and I just think that it is amazing. And I know some people criticize this one. Some people say, like, what's going on with the love is the fourth dimension thing? But I just think that that was necessary. Like, the movie had to have some sort of thesis. Like, come up with a better thesis. What do you think the fourth dimension is? Like, if it was just a sciencey movie, you would have all said, like, this has no heart, this has no character, this is like Tenet. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not, because there is a heart to this movie, and I think that it's great. It's cheesy, yes, but it actually is interesting to think about. Like, he's not wrong that love is the only thing that can go through space and time. Like, it's true. It's just true. It's an interesting concept, and I really enjoy it, and the ride that it took me on, because I didn't know what it was about. I knew it was about space. That's all I knew. And the fact that it starts out like in cornfields and you don't get to the space part for like at least 40 minutes, an hour, like, that's just so interesting to me. And Matthew McConaughey, we all know that scene, that crying monologue scene, that is just iconic in the world of cinema. And it does not hurt, of course, that Timothée Chalamet does have a very small role in this movie, which I did not know when I was watching it, and I was very excited to see. But we also cannot forget to talk about the score. I listen to Stay on a regular basis. Now, number 12, we have the movie that got me into watching movies, and that is Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. I remember so specifically seeing this in theaters with my friend because we just wanted to see the new Ansel Elgort movie. That did not age well. However, at the time, it was very normal. This is like after Fault in Our Stars, after Divergent, all that heyday. So we just wanted to see this new action movie with Ansel Elgort. And you know what we got? We got the best masterpiece of an action movie that exists, like, on this planet. Every single person on this earth is sleeping on Baby Driver, is sleeping on Edgar Wright. I know that people know what Baby Driver is, but people don't think about it for the masterpiece that it is. Like, if you go down the YouTube rabbit hole of people analyzing Baby Driver, it is literally insane. Like, every single sound in this movie goes to the beat of the music. The entire movie is choreographed to music. Do you understand how insane that is? Every gunshot in giant gunfights is to the beat of the song that is playing. They had to film it to go to that beat and have the sound design go to that beat, and just like, it blows my mind. And even the background stuff like changes with according to the lyrics of the songs throughout the movie. Every single character has like a different color that they switch through throughout the movie. Like, there's so much more. There's so much more. Oh, and the parts when this is going, okay, I can talk about this for too long, but there's so many details. Like the parts when the TV is on in the deaf father's house, every single line that happens on his TV comes back later in the movie in the real parts of the movie too. And that's just scraping the surface of this movie. And don't even get me started on like the plot twist. I remember this is the first plot twist in a movie where my jaw fell open. Like, both my friend and I, we were in a movie theater. We looked at each other like we were shook to the core, and that was like the most adrenaline I've ever felt in a movie theater, like, ever in my life. Like, I was astounded by that, and I'm absolutely obsessed with this movie. I can watch it a million times. It's just the best thing ever. But clearly there are 11 movies that I like more than it, but this is definitely my favorite like action movie ever. Now, for our number 11 spot is the movie that actually became my favorite movie after Baby Driver, but obviously has been dethroned since then. But this is when I was really first starting to get into movies, and that is Fight Club, directed by David Fincher. Now, this movie, this was a good one. I specifically remember that I watched this with the same friend as Baby Driver. This time we were in my basement, and I knew that she knew what the plot twist was. I knew there was a plot twist. I didn't know what it was. And she knew the plot twist, so it was very fun to see her like slowly piecing things together and be like, oh my god, this makes so much sense, and me being like, oh my god, what makes sense? Like, I don't know. And just the subtle clues that come in, the commentary of the whole movie, the way it's shot, the dark and gritty tone. I love the sort of flashes of things during the movie. If you've watched, you know what I'm talking about. I just love, obviously it's like fun to watch the fighting and the action, but we all know it's not what it's about. Don't come in my comments talking about Fight Club, alpha male, Tyler Durden stuff. Like, we know it's not actually about that. But I just remember being so obsessed with this. I'm obsessed with the way it opens and the way it ends. I'm obsessed with like the weird VFX. I know they're kind of outdated now, but it's just like, it adds to the charm of it. I'm obsessed with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, Helena Bonham Carter. The performances are great. It's just a great ride, and I think that everyone needs to watch this movie. And also, of course, so much credit to Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote the original novel. Now we are in the top 10 favorite movies that I've ever seen. Now this is very exciting because these are just cream of the crop movies. I mean, these all are, but these are ascending. Now this movie, when I first watched it, I did not think it was cracking the top 10 material. I did not think that it was better than Baby Driver and Fight Club, but I think about this movie so often, and I rewatched it I think a few times, maybe only once, but I don't remember, but I've definitely seen it more than once. And when I rewatched it, I was like, okay, this is just perfection. This is perfection. And that is Nightcrawler. Now this movie is literal perfection. I do not know a single person who has watched it and not like texted me during it being like, oh my god, I can't believe this is gonna happen. And they're not even at the part that's I can't believe this is gonna happen. I just think that this movie is just like, again, something I'm very jealous that was not written by me because it's so perfectly written. It's a thriller, but it has an interesting message, and the way that it unfolds is just so good. It's so good. I need a moment where it's I can't believe this is gonna happen. Is he gonna do this? Is this where we're going? And this movie does that like 18 times. Like it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And the performances in this movie as well are insane. I know people right now are hating on Jake Gyllenhaal, but I don't care. I literally don't care because Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie is insane. And the fact that he was not nominated for an Oscar for this haunts me to this day, because Jake Gyllenhaal is so talented, but this movie is like a whole different level. Like his haircut alone deserved an Oscar. Like I can't even describe to you how good he is in this film. Like you need to watch this film because he's a completely different human being. And then of course no one's even talking about Riz Ahmed. No one's talking about Riz Ahmed. Everyone talked about him last year for Sound of Metal. Where are people talking about Riz Ahmed for Nightcrawler? He is hilarious in this movie, so funny, and I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not going to spoil anything. Just watch this movie. It's horrifying, it's amazing, it's funny in a horribly dark way, and just everything about it is perfect. Great critique on the media, great film, great thriller. Next up, we have another very, very iconic film, which everyone has been talking about recently, again, ever since Spider-Man came out, and that is The Social Network by David Fincher. Now, this is the second Fincher film on this list, because I personally love Fincher, but this movie is by far his best. Like, come on, we all agree. It's just a masterpiece from start to finish. The Aaron Sorkin script, the witty dialogue. I can literally quote almost every single scene. The performances, we have Jesse Eisenberg, we have Andrew Garfield, we have Justin Timberlake, we have the girl from Sweet Life and Zack and Cody, we have Dakota Johnson for like 5 seconds, we have Rooney Mara. Like, this cast is stacked. This movie is amazing. I don't understand how it's as compelling as it is when it's just about a dude creating Facebook. Like, we all know the story, but we don't know this story. Like, this movie elevates it to a whole other level. It's so witty, it's so fast, it's so hilarious, and I am just obsessed with it. Like, the most iconic scene that everyone quotes on Twitter and Instagram, the flip-flop scene. Like, we all know that scene. We know how brilliant it is, and it's just the best thing ever. Just the best thing ever. It's like cocaine. You can just watch this movie on loop forever. This is like one of the weirdest comfort movies I've ever heard of, but it's like, it's true. It's a comfort movie. And like, sometimes you just want to feel that powerful. Like, we all don't like Mark Zuckerberg, but sometimes don't you just wish that you're Mark Zuckerberg? Like, just wish you had that witty power. And I also think it's hilarious how like Mark Zuckerberg in real life is just not it's not Aaron Sorkin. Like, I'm so sorry to say it, but like, when I say we wish we were Mark Zuckerberg in this movie, like, I mean in this movie. Like, Mark Zuckerberg in real life is like lizard man, can't form a sentence, but in this movie it's Jesse Eisenberg like completely owning everyone around him. Like, the comebacks in this movie are just so satisfying. Like, are we ever gonna top the if you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you would have invented Facebook? I don't think we will. Now, number 8 slot, we have another director that I've already talked about, and that is Inception, directed by Christopher Nolan. This, I think, is his magnum opus. I don't care what you say about The Dark Knight. I just watched the entire trilogy with my friend, and it was honestly not that good. So the second one, definitely the best one, I will agree, but like, no, we're not even touching Interstellar or Inception with that. So Inception, I think, is exactly what Christopher Nolan is when he does his stuff best. Obviously, I do think The Prestige deserves a little mention here. Prestige is amazing. It's amazing. It just doesn't hit me the same way. Maybe if I rewatched it, it would, but for now, it doesn't hit me the same way as Interstellar and Inception, and I apologize about that because I know people are fans of it, and I know it's great. Like, it's very underrated, so definitely recommend that too. But Inception just does what Nolan wants to do, and it does it perfectly. It has a huge emotional aspect, which is like what some of his movies have been lacking recently. It has an insanely interesting sci-fi plot, which I know he's like fascinated by, but this one is just done so well. Like, I feel like this one and Interstellar are the ones that do it the best because they have the most complex, like interesting Nolan-esque stuff, but do it in a way that's really easy to understand once you've seen the movie once. And like, I just think that's perfect. Like, it has stuff to unlock and stuff to figure out, but it makes sense when you go back and rewatch it. And I just remember, this is probably the movie that I was talking about before, about this one or Whiplash is the movie that made me sweat the most. Like, I remember this movie. I think this movie is the most like engaged I've ever been in a movie when I watched it for the first time. Like, I would pay to be able to watch this again for the first time because I've seen it I think 5 times now, and like, so I know every single scene of this movie. So like, I don't get the same like, oh my god moments as I did the very first time I watched it. I just remember I was in my living room, I was watching it, and I think we were basically at the part when you can see the van falling and then it flashes between the van falling and then like what's going on in each layer. That is like the most stressed and excited I've ever been at the same time. Like, I just remember so specifically being like, pausing the movie and being like, this is just the best movie I've ever seen in my life. Like, obviously I don't think it's the best movie I've ever seen in my life, but like, at the time I was like, oh my god, like, I don't think I've ever been on the edge of my seat for this long. Like, the suspense that he's able to like draw out from, because of the layers, like, I just think it's brilliant. It's brilliant the way he laid out the film, the way that it's a reverse heist. Like, heist movies are like my favorite thing. They're like one of my favorite tropes, and like in books too. And the way that it's a reverse heist where they're putting something back basically, but it's not even an object, it's an idea. And like, he had to think about how like planting like the smallest like inkling of an idea would like spread out into like a real idea. And it's like, he didn't just like write characters who came up with the way to do this. He had to write the plant of an idea with the father and the, I can't even begin to explain it. Also, we need to talk about the cast. We need to talk about the cast. We need to talk about Leonardo DiCaprio. We need to talk about Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We need to talk about Tom Hardy. We need to talk about Cillian Murphy. We need to talk about Elliot Page. We need to talk about literally everyone. I think I'm missing someone, but just everyone's so good. And we also need to talk about the best part of this movie, and that is the spinning hotel scene. We don't need to go into detail about it because you all know. I know you all know, and I just think that that is one of the best moments in movie history. It was done practically also, like, it was real. They built an entire room that spun, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt had to like do the choreography, and it's just, that is movie magic right there. Also the moment when the things like explode in slow motion, like the fruit stands. Also the part when the whole city like goes on top of itself, like, stop. That is sci-fi at its peak right there. Okay, number 7, we're gonna calm down a bit. We're gonna calm down a bit. I was getting a little too excited. We have Howl's Moving Castle by Hayao Miyazaki. Now this movie, this is the peak Studio Ghibli for me. This is just perfect, serene vibes. It has so much mystery. It has some scary elements. The premise itself is kind of scary, of like this girl getting turned into an old woman. Like, that's a scary thing to think about. You having like your entire life taken away from you basically. But like, it's just something about it is so good, and the way that she's just discovering things, her connection to Howl, Calcifer, don't even get me started on Calcifer the fire demon, like, that is iconic. The part when, just Howl as a character. Howl as a character. Let's talk about Howl. Let us talk about him. Look at his fashion, 10 out of 10. His sassiness, his immaturity, his utter drama is hilarious. The part when he gets depressed because his hair got dyed the wrong color and there's like goo everywhere, that like is his depression. Hilarious, so funny, and Sophie is just so stubborn in a good way. The creatures that come from this, and like just everything about it, and like the weird interesting commentary on war that comes out of nowhere, and like the door that can change where it's going based on the color of the wheel, like, stop. Everything about it is just whimsical, everything about it's amazing, and I just think that everyone needs to watch Howl's Moving Castle because it's so underrated compared to Spirited Away. Okay, that was my little weird song about that, but yes, this was definitely my movie of my childhood. This was my Disney movie, this was my Harry Potter movie, like, this was my comfort movie as a child, and still a great one today. So next up, got another genre switch. We have Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve. Now this movie, I've seen this one a bunch of times too. I don't even know what to say here. Like, this movie I think is the most underrated movie. The most underrated movie. Like, for the quality that it is and the amount of people that I know in real life that have seen it. Yes, Twitter film people have seen this movie. Like, yes, people who watch movies have seen this movie. People who know Denis Villeneuve have seen this movie. But like, general moviegoers have not seen this movie. And I don't know why. It's literally a crime. Again, Jake Gyllenhaal, insane in this movie. We have Hugh Jackman insane in this movie. We have Viola Davis. She's not in it very much, but like, this is a star-studded cast here. Like, Dylan Minnette, people nowadays, like, okay, let me just tell people that Dylan Minnette's in this movie, maybe they'll watch it. Like, people on film Twitter, like, maybe that'll get some of the girls watching it. But like, this, oh, Paul Dano is also in this movie. He's great in this movie. Like, I don't know why people aren't watching this. I don't know why people aren't watching this, because it's, I think, the best thriller movie I've ever seen. It is. It's literally, I'm looking at my list, like, there's nothing above it. This is the best mystery thriller thing I've just ever consumed, I'm pretty sure. Like, the way that it's so tightly written. Oh my god, it also has that guy in it from the guy who was in Dune and like Suicide Squad. I forgot his name. It's like David or something. I don't know. There's so many people in this movie. And like, I can't even, if I like am friends with you, I'm gonna force you to watch this movie. I haven't forced any of my friends to because I know that they'll be disturbed, because it is very disturbing. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's so good. Like, I can't even describe to you how tightly written it is, how good the plot twist is. There's multiple plot twists. I'm like, how good, like, the ending is so tense. The ending is so tense. And the very ending, I love a question. I love a question. We talked about this before. I love a question. The movie has such a question at the heart of it. And just like the motif of the mazes and like everything about it. Everything about this. Disturbing, check. Amazingly written, check. So exhilarating and like edge of your seat, check. The performances, check. Like, literally, it seems like it'll be boring. It's about kidnapped child, okay? Or two kidnapped children? Yeah, two kidnapped children. It seems like it's plain. It's plain. It's boring. No. You don't even know. You don't even know what you're in for if you're watching this movie. I beg of you to watch this and tell me what you think, because this movie is a work of art. A work of art. The best mystery thriller thing I've ever seen, read in my entire life. Like, I need to calm down. I need to calm down because it just makes me so angry that I don't know a single person in real life who has seen this. So please watch this. Just please watch this. Like, it's so good. It is very disturbing though. I will warn you. Like, it's very disturbing, but like, just watch it. Just watch it. Please watch it. Now, we're gonna calm down again. We're gonna calm down again. We have something very classic, very nice and calming and funny. We have Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, this movie is, I don't even have to say anything about it. We all know what this is. It's a coming-of-age comedy movie about Ferris Bueller who's pretending to be sick, and on his day off he decides to have some fun. And I just think this movie is great. I think everyone thinks this movie is great. It has really fun performances. I love Alan Ruck. I think he's underrated performance of this movie, and I'm very excited that he's in Succession recently. And I just think that this is great. It's just peak fun, peak nostalgia. Even if you never skip school, like I did, never skip school, makes you wish you did. Like, it's just a fun time. The parade scene is just iconic. The driving the miles backwards scene, iconic. It's everything about it. Super fun. I'm not gonna say more than that. You've all seen Ferris Bueller, and it's great. Now, number 4. We're getting a little sad here, and we're going with Denis Villeneuve's Arrival. Now, if you've seen this movie, you know why I'm calling it sad, even though it's a sci-fi movie. It just is. This is, I think, Denis Villeneuve's best. And I know, like, he didn't write the movie, but like, it's just so brilliant. And I think that his directing is what makes it also very brilliant. Like, like the special effects, the way that they portray the aliens, the lens of this film is just very interesting to me. And I know, once again, like, he's not the one responsible for that, for the writing of it, but like, it's just a masterpiece. So the reason that I really like this movie is for 2 things. One, I am like very intrigued by the idea of approaching a sci-fi novel from a non-scientist. I like that the main protagonist of this movie is a linguist, and that is what is most important to communicating with these aliens. And I love the simplicity of the aliens, and I love the main question, again, at the heart of this movie, and that is about, actually, I'm not gonna tell you what the main question at the heart of this movie is, because that'll spoil things, but there's just a question at the heart of this movie, and I think that the plot twist is insane, and is like the best plot twist. I think the best plot twist I've ever seen or read in anything, and it's perfect. It makes you reevaluate the entire movie, and also just like your take on like life and reality too. Like, I just think that it plants a seed in your head about real life and about the movie, and it makes you need to watch it again and just think about everything. Like, it just makes you contemplate life, like it really does, and it's so good. Again, this is another one where I'm like, oh, if I could watch this for the first time again, because that was insane. That was really insane, the way the pieces slowly fall together, and you're like, no, this is not, no, oh my god. Like, Denis Villeneuve really hits me with those plot twists, and really makes you need to watch movies many times, because that was good stuff. I cannot wait for Dune Part 2, because people don't know what happens in Dune, because I've read the book, and I know what happens in Dune Messiah also, which is the second book, even though I didn't read it, but people are saying now, okay, this is a little tangent about Dune, but like, Dune Part 1 was good. I have 4 stars, but like, people don't know how different things get. Oh, I'm excited. Anyway, moving on. Now, number 3. Again, switched up the genre quite a bit. We have The Perks of Being a Wallflower, directed by Steven Chabotsky. This movie, I actually saw Steven Chabotsky once at BookCon, fun little fact there, but this movie is just a peak coming of age movie. And I just think that everyone likes this movie. Like, everyone in my age group says that this is like one of their favorite coming of age movies, because it's just that good. It's so dark. It also has a plot twist. It's very funny and light at the same time as being dark, and it's just like the way that it melts together is just perfect. Like there's no shift really, it's just always fluctuating between the two. The performances are great. Emma Watson, Logan Lerman, Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller stands out a ton in this movie for me. Every single scene is very, very, very memorable. I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show scenes. I love the tunnel scene. Okay, what am I saying? What am I talking about? The tunnel scene is like the most iconic thing ever. Literally everyone's obsessed with the tunnel scene. Everyone just wishes they had what the tunnel scene had. Everyone has their own tunnel songs. Everyone just wishes they could just experience that moment and be infinite like Emma Watson and Logan Lerman are. Like, yeah, we all want to be them. We all want to be them, and it's just great. It's euphoric. Like, it's just so good. It's so good and everyone needs to see it. Everyone has seen it, but if you haven't, you need to see it. Also, I think part of the reason why this movie is so amazing is that the writer of the book, Stephen Chabotsky, was also the writer and director of the film, so he knew what parts he could take out and have it be okay. He knew the exact like feeling that the book evoked, so he knew how to translate that to film, and it worked so well. It worked so well, and I need more movies to be like this, where the author has more say. And I know some of the time that's not gonna be a good idea because the author has no experience with film, but like if the author has experience with film, like Stephen Chabotsky was like, I think he was like a film major or a screenwriter major, I don't know, he was like something very related to film, so he had knowledge about it. If they have knowledge about it, like, let them do something, or at least let them be a producer. Like, I just feel like when the author has say in it, it always turns out better, and this movie is a great testament to that. Now we're in the top two. I don't know if anyone has any guesses, but you can leave any guesses down below for the top two, because these movies though, I will say, if you're basing your guesses off of anything I've said before this, I think you're gonna be wrong, because these two movies are the opposite of so many of the movies. They're the opposite of the Fight Clubs, they're the opposite of Baby Drivers, they're the opposite of all that. Because my number two movie is Portrait of a Lady on Fire by Celine Sciamma. This movie is a French romance movie. Now, you may be wondering, like, huh? Like, what happened here? Like, you've been liking sci-fi thrillers, like nostalgic children's movies, and you have a French adult romance movie? Like, what's going on here? Right. I don't know what to tell you. I just think that this movie is the most well-written movie of all time. My number one movie is definitely objectively worse than this movie. This is the best movie I've ever seen in my life. It's Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but the other one just has way more connection to me personally. This movie, I've seen this several times as well. I don't even know what to tell you. I just think that the script is the most perfectly written thing in all of history. Like, I can't even begin to explain the connections it has to Orpheus and Eurydice, which is a Greek myth, and the way that it weaves into the story, insane. The plot that is just so compelling, even though it sounds like a bit boring. It's basically about someone who refuses to have her portrait drawn because once it is completed she will have to marry a man that she does not want to marry. So her mother hires this woman to secretly observe her, but pretend that she's just taking her on walks, and is going to observe her on these walks so she can draw the portrait of her, while the girl does not know that that's what she's really here to do. And it slowly turns into a budding romance, but clearly there will be some contention there because the girl is there to paint a portrait that will send this woman back to a man that she has to marry. And it's just, that plot doesn't sound that exciting, but it's so exciting. It's so exciting, and the cinematography is literally insane. The colors in this movie, and Call Me By Your Name. This movie and Call Me By Your Name have like similarities. I don't just mean like in the plot itself, I mean it's kind of similar, but like the colors are so perfect. Like the color correction is so perfect. Everything about this. And the use of music in this movie is insane because there's no music in it. Not a single song. There is actually not a single song except for two specific scenes. In those scenes, these songs are actually like happening like in the movie part. Like, it's not just like it's playing a song in the background, it's like they're singing it or listening to like an orchestra, that kind of. The ending of this movie, this movie, I just think every single person needs to watch it, and every single person will appreciate it and really like enjoy it. Like, I don't think this is like a weird art house film. Like, obviously it is very like cinematic, but it's just so perfect. It's so perfect, and I just think that every single person needs to watch it right now. And I know like one person in real life who's seen this, and I need more people to watch this movie because it's just utter perfection. And now lastly, number one, we have a movie that's kind of similar to that in terms of genre, sort of, and that is Little Women by Greta Gerwig. Now this movie is just this is my comfort movie. Obviously a bunch of these are, but this is like my number one comfort movie. I am obsessed with Jo March, I'm obsessed with Laurie, I'm obsessed with everyone, just all the sisters, and I'm obsessed with the way that Greta Gerwig decided to kind of twist the ending, because I just think it has such genius commentary on Lisa May Alcott and her history and the conventions of the time. I'm, again, not going to say too much about this one. Everyone knows what this is about. It's about four sisters coming of age post-Civil War, and it's just about their little shenanigans, and it's just great. I love Jo March. I wish I was Jo March. I want to be Jo March. and Everything But Joe March is just amazing, so I love this movie. And I'm also just obsessed with the structure that Greta Gerwig wrote this. I love that she alternates between the timelines instead of having the childhood timeline and then the adult timeline. I think it's great, and I think the twist of the ending, as I said before, is also just genius. So those are all of my favorite movies of all time, my top 20/21, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video and getting to hear about why I love movies and which movies I really like. And I would love to hear your comments down below if you agree with me on any of these, especially like Prisoners, Fortunately on Fire, the ones that I don't know anyone in real life who has really watched. I would love to hear your thoughts on them, and if you have any more recommendations for any that I am missing, then please leave them down below. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!